Hey, what's up all of you beautiful subscribers? I'm Jack Chapple, and today we're talking about how I made a 76% return on one trade in the stock market. So this actually happened about 5 years ago, and I've been meaning to talk about this for so long in the actual breakdown. I've had a revisionist history about this trade too, because this was a trade where I may have mentioned it just briefly in a lot of my other videos, but how I thought I made a 50% return and it happened over 3 months. I thought I made a 100% return and it occurred over a year and a half. And it's actually 76% and it occurred over roughly 1 year. And here's kind of what happened in the process that led to it, okay? So we're gonna wind the clock back about 5 years or so. So back to 2014. I was in university trying to pay for my living expenses, essentially using the stock market for the most part here. And so I have I invest 80-20. So 80% of my money goes into safe stuff that I think will grow slowly over time. And 20% of the time, I like to take little bets. Little bets on things that are tech, speculation, and I don't do commodities at all, but tech and spec. And you guys know this if you've watched my Stock Market for Beginners video, that's how I invest. So I had some money left over. I've been making some decent money. And I was like, okay, I might be willing to put, $3,000, $5,000, $8,000, maybe $10,000 into one big trade here, into that 20% category and place a bet. And so I was kind of looking around at some stocks. I was looking around and I didn't really love anything. I remember this for, a couple months actually. I didn't really find anything too enticing. And then I looked around one day. And so keep in mind, I live in Blackberry Town, okay? I lived in Blackberry Town, which is Waterloo. That's where the Blackberry campus was, and Blackberry was still alive in 2014. But here's what I saw. Something weird happened. Was that from about 2013 from 2012 to 2014, Blackberry was still kind of relevant a little bit here in the area because they're just so close there. There's engineers that use the phones. But then I noticed, I looked around my classroom, my lecture hall, and no one had Blackberries anymore. And they didn't have Samsungs either. Pretty much everyone had an iPhone 4S or like a 5S, one of those two phones. And they all got them in the last 6 months, a year. Even I had one at the time. And I remember thinking, there has to be something to this. Like if Blackberry Town is now losing out to Apple and this new Siri thing, this iPhone Siri 4S thing, there's got to be something to this. And so I decided one day, I go home, I look at the Apple charts, I'm like, okay, they've had steady growth over time, the last 50 years, they're not gonna go bankrupt. This kind of fits my criteria for kind of a safe bet, but also a risky one. So Apple, I think that at the time the chart was, they had a previous 5 years, 3-4 years are pretty good, and then they had a dip the last 6 months to a year, if I remember that correctly. And so I was like, okay, this might be worth a bet. So I look into it, I dig into it, and I was like, okay, this company fits all of I looked at their financials, their fundamentals, as I always do. And I just kind of figure, hey, I'm not going to lose all my money. I always assume that I'm going to lose all of it, right? That's how I invest with those speculation. Never invest more than you're willing to lose. So I went in saying that I'm probably not going to, but I'm assuming I will. It's fine. But I have a decent feeling that Apple's actually going to have this 4S and the Siri and the 5S. These phones are so good that I think that the earnings and the overall sales of the phones are going to go way up. So I also looked at the company's future. I saw games were taking off. I saw that, the gaming industry, especially in mobile, was still growing at about 40% per year. At that time, I think now it's 25%. It was growing at about 40% per year. And so I decided to place a bet, throw thousands of dollars at this thing. Okay, so I made that bet in March of, March of 2014. Somewhere around there. March of 2014. And then what happened was slowly, over time, keep in mind this other important thing here. There's one more important thing I need to mention here. I ended up selling it I believe it was the next year in April 2015. So I bought the stock for about 70, I think it was 75.02. That's what it said. Again, I don't quite remember the exact numbers here, but looking up, that was what it was, 2015. And I remember selling it for 123. I do remember selling it for 123 American. It was 123 point, what was the number here? It's 123.98 is what I sold it for. So that on its surface is not a 76% return, actually. That on its surface is about 60-something% return. Now, there's a few things. Why did I sell it? I'm going to get to that in a second here. But what happened is that at that time, why I was looking to invest at that time in American companies specifically, which is what I forgot to mention, is because the Canadian dollar was worth, I think, 92% of the American dollar, 91%, somewhere around there. CDN to USD. So that's the timeline, is that Canadian dollar is worth 91% of the US dollar. All right? So I invest into essentially both American dollars and I invest in Apple. Therefore, by the time I sell, this Canadian dollar conversion is now at about 80% or 79%. It was like 79 point something, but I'll just round to 80. So the conversion actually went down to 80% Canadian to USD. So when I cashed out, I actually got an additional 11% bump when it got converted back to Canadian dollars. So again, I had about a 60-something% return here, 11% return here, and I ended up selling. So why did I sell? This was something I had to look back on a little bit here. So because I sold around that time, I believe, I sold in 2015, so this was 4 years ago. So that was when I got sick. And April 2015 was when, that was the first time I went to the hospital, actually, April 2015. So, I just couldn't make a lot of money after that. I didn't have a ton of savings. I got sick in March 2015. And then by April, I just started to say, hey, I need this money liquid. You never know what's going to happen with Apple. I'd rather just cash out now because I don't know when I'm going to be able to return to work. And that's when I sold. So I ended up being sick, and I didn't really work for a full year, actually. I went back to school, but I really didn't show up to class, and it was this whole story. I tried going to the tests and stuff, even though I was very sick still. But I ended up graduating. So anyways, that's a whole different story. I ended up selling. I always say to not sell if you can. I have the whole video, actually, which you can check out, which is when to sell your stock. And one of the things I always say is, if it's an emergency or you have a health problem or you don't know if you're going to be able to work or whatever. And so that was a situation that I went through, which is I wouldn't have sold Apple at that time. I didn't think that it was really going to go down over the next 10 years. I thought it was going to keep going up, and hell, what's the Apple stock worth right now? Let me actually check. Because I think that the Apple stock's probably worth, a few $100s right now? Apple stock is currently worth $283. So if I'd held on to that for an additional 4 years, it would have more than doubled again. So, but again, who knows? Maybe I don't pay for the antibiotics. Maybe, who knows what happens? Maybe I don't pay for all those experimental drugs and all that stuff. So anyways, that's kind of how I got a 70% return, 76% return. Was simply two things. It was kind of the perfect storm with a little bit of education. So again, this is partial luck, partially education. I don't know how much it is for each one, but this is a perfect storm. You're not going to get this. Obviously, a 76% return on one trade in 1 year is insane. It's absolutely insane. I've had some similar ones. I've had some 40% returns. I've had, some negative. I only had one negative, 4% return or something like that. But again, these transactions where you're able to get more than a 10% return in a year, they don't happen too often. If the ones that you're able to get more than 25% or 40%, they're like a once every decade kind of thing. So again, this is partial luck, partial gut feeling, partial looking at their financials, partial looking at the tech, at the surrounding industries. So I wouldn't have made this bet, by the way. I wouldn't have made this bet if it was solely based on me looking around, seeing people at iPhones. All right, the company had to match the financial profiles that fit the companies I invest in. They also had to be in the industry and had to be in growing industries too. And because Apple kind of turned into a gaming company at the time with the App Store essentially. So that's one of the reasons why I placed a bet in them too, because gaming is taking off. Gaming's still growing at a super high rate, by the way. So a lot of you out there, gaming companies, people ask what you invest in right now. Gaming's still growing at 25% per year. I'm not saying to invest in gaming companies, but maybe the industry, that might be something to look into. So, I have a lot more videos on this. Maybe I'll cover some more breakdowns of some of my other trades about why I invested in them. But yeah, for this one, Apple was profitable. They've been around a long time. They had a lot of cash in the bank. They've been growing. They're realistically growing over the past 5 years. I saw some additional value too because they were on a downtrend the last few months, I believe, before I bought them. And it was just kind of a perfect storm. Perfect storm. And again, not... You know what? Just go check out my stock market playlist, actually, because I don't want to just repeat the same thing over and over again here. So go check out my stock market playlist. I have a ton of other videos similar to this and some good stock breakdowns, actually. So if you want me to break down some of my other trades, just leave a like on this video and subscribe, and I'll do some more. I've made a lot of trades in my day. So just let me know in the comments down below if you want me to do some more breakdowns. This one was my highest 1 year return on one stock, I think. And I've had a couple. I've had at least one off the top of my head where it was beyond 40%. And I'm sure I had others. Like I'm sure Amazon and Google did well and stuff too. I just need to look at those numbers after. So, anyways, go click on that stock market playlist, and I will see you guys in the next video in a few seconds. Bye bye.